because it involves about 1.5 to 2 million votes at least. And in that volume, the number of question votes or ballots will be sufficient to affect the eventual outcome or the results of the election.
But do you have enough proof to support that?
Yes, we do. We presented proof for each and every province as they have been called out by the Joint Canvassing Committee. But the problem is, every time we raise a hue and cry and we present our evidence, mostly documentary in nature, such as this one that I have brought, and I will request your cameras to close this up later. But every time we do so, the Joint Canvassing Committee simply makes the ruling noted. Noted simply means let's set it aside and let's get on with the arithmetical tabulation. So if we continue with this trend of action on the part of Joint Canvassing Committee, we'll never be able to avail of an opportunity to present reasonable proof of election fraud, because exactly the premise of our position is that election fraud will surface only if the canvassing by Congress goes beyond the province-level election document, which is called the Certificate of Canvass, goes beyond the Certificate of Canvass back to the election returns, which are the precinct-level election documents.
We had Commonwealth Commissioner Heidi Yorak as the guest of options several weeks ago. And she made a claim, and she made it very emphatically and categorically, that the function of Congress in this tabulation is simply ministerial. Ministerial meaning just authenticating the certificate of canvass and the due execution, and that it should not go further into examination of details and protests and so on and so forth. How do you react to what Heidi Yorak said?
It is very easy to misunderstand these technical details if a person does not have exposure to the legal system. So I will have to be technical. Article 7, Section 4 of our Constitution provides that Congress shall canvass the certificates for the presidential elections upon determination of their due execution and authenticity. These are the exact words of the Philippine Constitution. It uses the phrase due execution and authenticity. Notice that this phrase was used only by the 1987 Constitution. It was not found in the 1935 or in the 1973 Constitution, which means that under the old constitutions, Congress' duty was ministerial. That is to say, it was arithmetical or automatic. All they had to do was accept the certificates of canvass from every province in the country, write them up on a board, and then add them all, and voila, we had a Philippine president. But with the addition of this new phrase, upon determination of authenticity and due execution, the Philippine Constitution has changed the role of the Philippine Congress as a canvassing board. That function has now become discretionary. It is not ministerial. Discretionary means that Congress possesses power of judgment when it discharges the function of tabulation.
Miriam, excuse me, but okay, I may grant that you are very strongly convinced that you have the law of your side. But supposing, just supposing that Congress sets your objections aside and proclaims Eddie Ramos as the president, what happens after
and
that?
And that may not even be idle supposition, because I understand that they have a game plan to hold the proclamation by Wednesday or within this week. And so that is why, in retrospect, my behavior will become not only intelligible, but I hope pardonable, because I have always seen my function to be that of the town crier, to make a hue and cry because there is a thief in the neighborhood. And some people, bothered in their sleep, are turning over in their beds or are pushing up the window shutters and saying, "Shut up, Miriam. Why are you bothering the neighborhood?" And I am explaining, it's not me who's bothering the neighborhood, it's the thief.
Miriam, we'll have to pause for a brief break. I mean, in the next segment, Cheche comes in with our questions.
Okay.
Firing line will continue. We now return you to Firing Line.
Okay, we're back on Firing Line, and Dr. Santiago had many interesting comments, and we were rushing at the line before we went to commercial break. You said many striking things in your last statement. One is that you have called certain people thieves. Who are you calling a thief?
The people who perpetrated election fraud. For example, the people who were behind the falsification of these two basic election documents in the province of Romblon. I have here the certificates of votes of candidates issued by the Provincial Board of Canvassers of Romblon. I have another document called the Certificates of Canvass. Normally, the certificates of votes for a province is issued all in handwriting because it is an advance copy, and each watcher of every political party is given a copy. So our PRP poll watcher accessed to this handwritten copy, an advance copy. And then a few hours later, the certificate of canvass put down in black and white the same information carried in the advance copy. This is now the formal or the final copy. And yet, these two documents, which are meant only to be copies of each other, cannot be reconciled because they bear different figures. They have been summarized as follows by this top document. So if your camera will grant me a close-up, you will see that I have here my name, Santiago. I happen to have stopped the tabulations for the province of Romblon. So Santiago, in the early or the advanced election document called the Certificate of Vote, is credited with this number, 26,105. And the next ranking candidate, Ramos, is credited with 3,609 votes. This is in the advance copy, handwritten, because it is done so early. But when these votes were transferred from the document called Certificate of Vote, and they were transferred to the document called Certificate of Canvass for delivery to the Congress, the votes were switched around. And my 26,105 votes have now been credited to Mr. Ramos, whereas Mr. Ramos's votes have gone to somebody else, and somebody else's votes have gone to me. It's very clear from this document. So when I say there is a thief in the neighborhood, I am referring to the people, among others, who were responsible for the preparation of these documents.
But granting for the sake of argument that there was cheating, it's widely accepted that, all right, everybody cheats and that there is no such thing as an absolutely clean election. Will all of these figures that you now cite, will they make a substantial difference in the final outcome?
They will. Certificates of canvass of at least 14 provinces. And in addition, right now, there are about 2,000 missing precincts. So how can Congress make a proclamation when at least 2,000 precincts are missing in their tabulations? And in addition, there are missing thousands more of the election documents at the precinct level called statements of votes. If you add up all of these missing documents called statements of votes at the precinct level, they will total more or less about 8 million votes. So we have this high a number of questionable and suspicious votes. That is why, if a president is proclaimed on the basis only of the canvass certificate, for the next 6 years, the brooding omnipresence in the Philippine sky will be the unresolved question of the extent of wholesale election cheating. And besides, I would like to beg your indulgence. I wish to point out that although there may be certain sectors of society who believe that we must learn to live with or to accommodate or to compromise with the fact of cheating in Philippine elections, there is a significant number of people, particularly in the lower economic classes, who believe that by this time, 1992, we should no longer acquiesce in or even tolerate